Nice, nice. Really quick, if everyone wants to just write in the chat, what brought you here today? Why are you interested in hearing these young people's experience? Thank you, Aaron. Oh, are you kidding? Nice. Dang, we had a small little group tonight. We're about to really learn. Oof. Okay, well, I can get us started. Feel free to continue to write anything. And if you have any questions throughout this, there's time at the end for a Q&A. But if anything arises, you can write it in the chat so you don't forget it. Um, but yeah, the point for tonight is to kind of just learn about how. So there's four speakers tonight, myself, and then we've got Jaden, Marilyn, and Manny, who'll be just sharing some of their experience in the environmental field throughout like what their education is, and just like what that experience really looks like as a young person. And for people that don't necessarily identify as a young person, to figure out ways to better engage with young people in this type of work, and for other young people here to hopefully inspire you. But yeah, I'll just kind of, well, I'll start. I'll kick us off. So once again, my name is Michaela Freeman. I'm 22 years old, and I work at Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light as our youth program and outreach coordinator. That looks like a lot of different things. Hosting events centered for young people to kind of understand the things they're interested in, whether that's like environmental work, environmental education, or policy work. MNIPL does a lot of legislative work. And then I'm also a environmental justice and social justice manager at Metro Blooms, and we focus on a lot of sustainable landscaping through community engagement. And I can dive more into that later. But I lead our Blooming Boulevards project, which is um, roughly doing like 25 gardens this year to provide to North and South Minneapolis residents for free in their boulevards, and they're full of like native plants. And we do a lot of different workshops and fun things like that. And I'm also, sorry, I have a lot of hats. I'm also the chair of our executive steering committee for the Youth and Power Network. We were a like environmental justice slash community organizing youth program for a long time, and then we transitioned to a network to be a bit more broad and to focus on education and to kind of just get young people inspired to either enter this field or figure out what field is like the most impactful to them. So we have a lot of different spectrums for that. Sorry, I'm checking the little waiting room. Okay. I guess what first inspired me to get into like climate justice or environmental work, I did Step Up, which is like getting young people jobs in North and South Minneapolis. And I had my second internship at a church in North Minneapolis when I was 15. And someone that worked at MNIPL, her name's Analia, came in and hosted an environmental justice camp. And as one of the interns, I had to be like a camp counselor for it. And throughout those 3 weeks, we learned about like what environmental justice is, how does it impact your community, like what's actually happening to the world other than just like the ice caps are melting, which was like the only thing I had ever heard at that point. And it really opened up my eyes to understand what my community was going through, plus every like other state in the United States and more globally as well. And I was really eager to learn more and to kind of figure out what I could do at such a young age with just learning all these things. um, and then let's see, a specific thing that really made me want to pursue this was over these past years, everything I get to do for the planet and for community members just solidifies like more why I want to do this work. The people I've met through like the programs that I've led and the gardens and the trees that I've been able to plant and just put it back into my own community to like make the community more beautiful, to improve like the air, the water, the soil, has made me know like this is exactly where I need to be right now. Yeah. And then my like education or my career path. So I graduated high school. I pursued a year at community college, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do, even though this work was like a big passion of mine. So I went through a lot of majors and I was like, I need to take a step back. So I don't have my degree yet, but I feel like my real education has come from the many apprenticeships I've done, the internships, and the jobs that I've held over these years. Being an apprentice for Youth and Power for 5, 6 years, I did like a tree apprenticeship, learning how to take care of like baby trees. I did a soil remediation apprenticeship, learning how to make like mass batches of compost, which is really hard and really gross, but very informative. And I did do step up for 3 years. I was always doing youth work, either at like my local park or at that church, doing like the being a summer camp counselor. And I've been at Metro Blooms for 4 years now, really honing in my knowledge on like native plants, more equitable ways to do community engagement. And I think over the past 4 years, we've probably done over at least 100 workshops. Let me check the waiting room. I don't actually know how to check the waiting room. Nice. Nice. Okay. Some challenges that I've faced are I guess the hardest thing. I'm learning as I go. Like all my knowledge is coming from like my actual hands-on experience, and I definitely don't know everything, and I'm still constantly learning. But I feel like sometimes as a young person, you really have to prove your expertise or just yourself to people, which is really hard. Um, like when I make a mistake, I have to work, I feel like extra hard to correct it and prove to people older than me and that have like more education than me that I'm valuable in these spaces and I do belong in these roles, which is just kind of hard sometimes, but learning how to navigate it. I feel like disrespect can happen a lot. I feel like working with older people, I feel like it just comes. Um, and just like figuring out how to navigate them the best that I can. But I have a lot of people behind me, like in my space, that will really stand up for me if it's like feels too much. Sorry, I gotta admit somebody. Okay. And then some skills or like experiences that I feel like are the most valuable for my work specifically. I think growing up in North Minneapolis has made my work more valuable because that's the community I mainly serve within my work. I know the people, I know some of the struggles that people that live there go through, the history in the streets, grew up over there. I know it like the back of my hand. And I feel like also just by being a young person, because I work a lot with young people, so I feel like I can connect with age and experience better than maybe someone a bit older than me. And yeah, I got my first job when I was 14, and I was like, I need to make money, but I loved the work so much, and I got to meet so many people that everything has just kind of fallen into place because of putting myself out there and really like getting to know people and like showing them that I was really invested. But I feel like the main thing was like people were willing to invest time and care and knowledge into me, and that's like why I'm where I am today. Yeah, I feel like climate justice is really important to me because I see how it impacts. Like I said this earlier, I see how it impacts the people in our state and our community, and it's important for me to try to repair some of the harm, even though I didn't personally do it, and not saying anyone in this room has done it, but I feel like it's important if you can to figure out how to educate people, how to care for one another, and really listen to people. I feel like we host a lot of engagements, and our main thing is like, let's get some dinner. If we can, we'll pay people, we'll work around their schedules. And yeah, sorry, let me check the waiting room. Okay. Something I'm really proud of is all the projects I've been able to do, but all the things that I've learned over the years and being able to share it with other people and not like hoarding information. I feel like if I learn something, I'm spewing it to everybody I meet immediately. And just some advice I feel like for young people is it can be super scary, but to put yourself out there. Um, if there's any community events happening, if there's any like info sessions or learning things, to go meet people. You don't need to have a business card, write your number on a post it, like something like, really make yourself like known if you can, or if you feel comfortable, or try to step out of that comfort zone. Um, and I feel like we can share many resources, but the Youth the Power Network is always willing to have young people. Our ages are from 16 to, I think, 30. So if you want to know more, let me know. Um, and I think something I feel like I wish I knew in the beginning, like when I first started, was like I need to stand up for myself and take time to find the right people that will help me and support me. And I feel like I have after all these years. And to really make long lasting connections. I feel like I wouldn't be in any of these spaces if I didn't meet the people that I met and really be like, I want to learn beside you, I want to learn from you. And yeah, I feel like that's what I got right now. I will pass it off to Jaden.
Thank you, Michaela. I love hearing your story, like how you tell everybody else, because I was right next to you when it happened. So it's really cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Jaden Ellington Vassar. I'm also 22 years old. My story actually starts similarly to how Michaela's did. I was in the Step Up program for 1 year. It was at the end of the summer of my freshman year of high school. I didn't know anything about environmental justice. During that time, I was really focusing on what was going on with the police brutality all over the world and specifically in Minneapolis. And that's where my mind was, and the things that we learn in school and experiences that my family has had growing up in the North and the South. But we did meet our mentor, now friend, Analia, that works at MNIPO, and she really opened my eyes to what environmental justice was and the injustices. I feel like it really landed hard with me when I realized a lot of the things that are happening are in my community. I am from North Minneapolis and currently live there, and people get sick. People that look like me are getting sick from all ages, from infants to elders. And I really latched on from there. Like, this is my passion, this is what I need to do. From there, I actually also did work at MNIPL as the office and programs assistant, and I really worked with more of the paperwork, behind the scenes work, which was very great and very educational for me. But I knew that I wanted to be more hands-on. And then I joined Metro Blooms right after that. And I've been there for the last 4 years. So, telling you I'm 22, right? So when I graduated high school, I went to college. Currently, I'm a senior at Alabama A&M University, where I study environmental science with a concentration of environmental health, because from my passion, I wanted to put that towards my education to further my knowledge and put back into the communities that I live in, the communities that I serve. From that, I've gotten amazing opportunities by being able to intern with the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, working as one of their field people, learning about brownfields and Superfund sites, which was an amazing opportunity and really deepen my knowledge on these are things that we've seen every day, but we didn't know how much harm was happening from contaminated soil to contaminated air in so many different places. Like I said, I'm in my senior year of college, and seeing the difference between Alabama and Minnesota, they're very different states, very different places, but the environmental injustices are very aligned. It's happening there and it's happening here, which made me push even harder to make sure that I was going to learn about it. Um, I feel like within those spaces, like I said, I've been in a lot of spaces with MNIPL, Metro Blooms, with the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. I also work as the co-director of recruitments in Youth Empower. Being in all those spaces, I think, has taught me so much about myself and about the world around me. I feel like with that, the most challenging part of it is relating what's happening with the world to people as individuals. It takes a lot of time to really building relationships with people is very important. So it takes a lot of time and soaking a lot of knowledge from various individuals to teach them, like, yes, this is happening globally, but it's also happening in your backyard, whether you see it or you don't. A lot of people like to see the immediate results of what it how you know it unhealthy, or how do you know that the quality in your city is making you sick? So having to personalize that for people was it's challenging because everybody has a different sense of what's going on. But when you get through to people and let them know what's going on around you, it's me. So yes, let's do something. Let's go, um, and let's get out here. And then once we get to that point, it just makes me it makes my heart full because I said I live in North Minneapolis and I'm very in the community, and my family is too, being teachers over in North Minneapolis and South Minneapolis. So we're well connected. But seeing people have access to fresh fruit, planting gardens. I mean, we just did a companion planting, which is planting vegetable gardens with native plants, and seeing people be able to go out into their yards or go somewhere local and pick their own food and learn about what's going on around them and being more self-sufficient just is so powerful to me because you're able to rely on yourself and your knowledge and bring it all together within a space that you feel is safe, like a home or a yard or your park and things like that. Um, I feel like with that, there are a few projects that I've done within all of my realms of work and school that have really stood out to me. I feel like with Metro Blooms, my current job now, creating relationships with people. I actually just created a relationship with juxtaposition art, and it was really warmed my heart a lot because I have relatives that go there and go through their program, and it's in North Minneapolis, a community that I live and serve. And making that connection and being able to teach people about what's in their yard, like what is around the building and the campus, is so powerful to me. And then with school, being a part of, I was on the executive board of our environmental science club and teaching people the things that I've learned and I've collected, and having them take information and me learning information and them spreading it out. With MNIPL, I learned about the paperwork. I'm very hands-on now with my work, but I understand the importance of what's going on behind the scenes, the people that you don't always see planting the gardens or hosting the workshops, about how important that step is before you can even get to the bigger step. And then with my internship with the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, working with the government and seeing the huge steps that they take and the scientific part of like testing soil, getting things tore down, how there are so many different levels of that type of work, and just learning about them was really impactful for me. I mean, with all that said, for me, looking ahead into the future, I really want to continue this work and wherever I am. I don't know if my journey will end in Minnesota nor in Alabama, like or in Alabama, but no matter where I end up going, I want to make sure that I am learning from the community and teaching the community about what we can do to make this place, Earth, better for not just us, but for the plants and the animals around us. Yeah.
Thank you, Jaden. You cut out a little bit, but we got
Oh,
it.
okay.
Thank you so much. I'll pass it to Manny.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Manny Vasquez. I use he, him pronouns. Um, and professionally, I am currently a project manager at Metro Blooms, a nonprofit, on their community relations team, leading a lot of different wonderful projects that I will get into in a little bit. Not professionally, I am 21 years old, live on the northeast side, and I have a cute little Chiweenie, which is a Chihuahua wiener dog named Nico. He's my pride and joy. Let's see. Let's see. Growing up, a little bit more about me. I'm Mexican and Ojibwe, so very indigenous to North America. And growing up, my family made it very clear to me about the different hardships and situations may come simply because of the way I look, how I am. And I think that really compelled me to really learn more about um, social injustices and the environmental aspects that really come with it. And let's see, very first thing I started off, my a lot of my elders in my family were community organizers off the get-go. And one thing that they were a part of was called the Minneapolis Youth Council. Um, and that was my kind of my very first experience in doing community organizing and being a part of decision making, especially being a part of the process of decision making when it comes to decisions that are affecting youth. And that was the main reason why the Minneapolis Youth Council was really there. It was a group of youth from around the urban area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, surrounding cities, that came together simply because they knew our voices and our perspectives were crucial to decisions and processes that were happening throughout our city. So that both organizations and government would come just to speak to us about different things they were thinking about, different processes and policies that they wanted to implement. They wanted input, and we were a great just like source to get input from. I think through that, I was there for a couple of years. I was a part of the employment committee, which really understood or tried to understand different employment issues and processes that youth were running into throughout the city. And one thing that we tried to alleviate was, or by was creating an annual job fair in which we called local businesses and corporations to come to really to have positions and prioritize youth. And during that job fair, we would have educational opportunities on like professionalism, what to dress to an interview, what you should be prepared for, what to bring, just so youth had that gateway to at least have some of that knowledge when being prepared for a job that some may never had would be able to get that knowledge prior. And through then, I had a friend in high school who was a part of the Youth Empower or Youth Empower. It wasn't the network at the time. It's made up a couple community organizers. Um, and hearing about the work that I did prior, they thought it would be a good fit for Youth Empower. So I joined them for about a year or two. Really learn more about the environmental justice aspects of our community and how it's affecting the communities I was a part of. Especially one thing that comes up when I speak about this is the HERC, which is the Hennepin Energy Recovery Center. It's a trash facility, incinerator in downtown Minneapolis that heavily affects air quality all throughout Minneapolis, but really densely located in North Minneapolis and where I lived um, for about a year, in which and my sister has asthma, and while we were living over there, um, I could really see how it was affecting her health and the way that she was simply breathing on a day to day from living north side, like living south side, which were a lot further away from the Herc. And I think really that really impelled me to continue to learn more about different things that are affecting my community. And the Youth Empower was a great way to both learn and educate others what was happening. And then through Youth Empower, I met Michaela. She is both my coworker at Metro Blooms and one of my very close friends. And through Metro Blooms, I'm a project manager at Metro Blooms. I'm able to do a lot of great things. Um, I think one thing being that I'm really proud of is one project that I'm leading is we're partnering with the City of Lakes Community Land Trust, which is a home or it's a land trust. And if you're not familiar with what the land trust is they're essentially an organization that helps people buy homes. And the little catch is that they end up they hold ownership of the actual land, but the people own the building and their actual homes. And that comes with a bunch of perks. They have access to a lot of different projects and resources. Projects such as mine, where we're giving homeowners a lot of or 25 rain gardens and 15 trees, all native species that really promote pollinator health and habitat. Rainwater runoff. It prevents sediment and trash from going into our waterways, and we're specifically placing them in low income and BIPOC communities and green zones where historically there's been a lack of environmental funding and just like resources that help alleviate a lot of wrong past doings. Um, and just being a young person in this field, I think Michaela has touched on it earlier. It does come with, I would say, come with some challenges. When I'm working out in the field, meeting a lot of community members, new people. They sometimes, I mean, it comes with this thing that I look really young. People doubt my ability, my knowledge that I hold, and the reason I'm there. But you know, you just have to keep on pushing as a young person. It's fine. It's nothing new. As a young brown person, it's nothing new for sure. Um, and that just comes with the kind of society that we're living in. But I'm more than happy to be um, a kind of person that others can really like look up to. That's why I'm doing this, be a resource where others are able to come and ask questions and not feel shy or feel like they're alone in this. Um, sorry, I'm trying to go into prompts. Um, some advice I would give someone who wasn't involved, I would say just it may seem very extremely overwhelming and difficult when you're first like getting into the environmental and just like in this any kind of fields, I would say it could get extremely overwhelming and you may feel alone. You need to surround yourselves with the right people with the right mentality, who are there for like for similar reasons that you're there to, you know, either help your community, help yourselves, help the world. And if people are there to do that, then we're all gonna have a good time. How can young people make an impact, especially if they have other responsibilities? I did 2 years in college at St. Thomas, just doing my associate's degree, and even throughout then, I wasn't a project manager at Metro Blooms. I was a coordinator, so I was still doing similar work, just not that much into it. But I was honestly very lucky to be able to be in these positions, both with the connections that I was able to create years prior, and just the knowledge that I held doing other kind of community work. But either way, I only got started because I was interested in something and I dipped my toes into it, and that's exactly how you should get started into something that even slightly intrigues you, and that even helps your community. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Manny. That was great. I'll pass it to Marilyn.
Okay, thank you, Michaela. Thank you to all my previous presenters. My name is Marilyn, like Marilyn Monroe. I was not named after her, but that's exactly the same spelling. Um, and my approach to this topic is coming from a bit of a step away. It's through the international landscape, more of a political sciencey brain. So a lot of my questions are going to be framed with that framework, just kind of to understand my approach. So I am 21 years old and I am a recent graduate from University of St. Thomas with a BA in International Studies with a focus in political science. So I did my 4 years there. I got my bachelor's and I just graduated in May. So I'm fresh off the boat. Just started getting into the entry-level professionalism. And my approach to my approach to climate justice was actually framed by one of my minors in Holocaust and genocide studies. And so, thank you, Erin. That was a lot of hard 4 years, so I'm really taking all the congratulations. I worked my butt off. But my interest in climate justice is shaped by my interest in genocide work. And so the thing that first comes to mind is this new upcoming study of what scholars are calling climate refugees. And so the best way to frame that group is asking yourself, how are people faced with environmental degradation, political degradation, how are they forced into action? And this action can be both positive or negative. And then, as scholars, how do we approach this new group to meet their needs, to keep their dignity, and to address the systematic issues that are attacking them? And so, through that work, you can understand how the lack of water, the lack of green spaces, the lack of sustainable food sources, how that forces people into, again, positive or negative action. So, let me go back. And the specific moment that I started realizing that I wanted to get further into this connection with the genocide work and climate justice was during my minor when I took a class focusing on the study of all genocides. So here we went through one of the first genocides before the word genocide was even created per se, and we went through all of them throughout the years. The one that I want to highlight was the Cambodian genocide and its use of the environment to really systematically target groups of people. And by that I mean, as a quick overview, the Cambodian genocide included the segregation of groups of people based on class. And as you all know, class is very easily redefined by powers above us. And so it was arbitrary, to kind of put it into simple terms. So people that were of the lower, wealthier class, they were forced into the farm life and they owned none of the food that they produced on these farms. Through that, the Cambodian genocide was built on starvation and through the gatekeeping of food sources. And so that's kind of how environmental environmental things were used as a tool to further perpetuate harm against a group of people. My education has been, to this point, just been my bachelor's. For the field that I want to get into, I've always toyed with the idea of going to law school or getting my master's or doing both or doing either or. Um, and so that's just been a newer journey for me to figure out what my next steps are. What do I want to really discover within this field and what issues, what gaps do I want to fill and what people do I want to help? So my career path has looked a lot more just curiosity. I've been reaching out to professionals in the field. I've been connecting with people within MNIPL that I currently work at with my current position. And I've just been trying to soak up all the information that I have available to me and all the people that have gone through the path prior to me. And the biggest challenge has been, truthfully, what is even possible? What careers are possible? What can we do? How can we approach this? And just as Manny said, it's just dipping your toe in. There's really no clear path. There's only you jump in and you figure out what doors are open, you figure out what you don't want, and you just continue working towards what you do want. So that's kind of the theme of my approach to entering the professional world. As for skills or experiences that have been most valuable to me, have been the soft skills that you learn. And soft skills essentially is just your interpersonal skills, how you talk to people, how you connect with people, how you speak with people, and all those really put you in connection with some great professionals in the field. And also, it's all the skills that you think you don't need. For example, I used to work as a it was the chair of finance for the school club. And I hated finance. I did not do anything with finance or math on purpose. But what this opportunity did for me, it gave me a closer scope to attention to detail, to working with all the back kind of like background processes that a club needed. And in having that background, having that knowledge, I knew how to have hard conversations on budget, on very technical language that we needed to follow through to school policy. And it got me where I am today, so I definitely did something right. But yeah, I didn't like math, and I just took the skills from that, attention to detail, and I applied it to future experiences. And through then, that's kind of just how I've approached all of our opportunities that open their doors to me. In that it may not be where I see myself in 5 years. That doesn't mean they have nothing of value to me. And just picking up all the skills that I can and all the experiences that they allow me to have in that opportunity. Um, Again, because I'm approaching climate justice through international perspective, my community is it's a step removed. So personally, kind of similar to everybody that's expressed here, they've had their own experience with climate injustice. However, I then turned my analytical brain to how on a global scale are we approaching and or facilitating and or making this issue a lot bigger than it needs to be, rather than finding solutions. And so that's a lot of where my professional career is rooted in. And that leads to a lot of different experiences and research in that field. For example, I refer specifically to my research on Ecuador and how the lack of environmental tools allow local communities to build up their own food security. And thankfully enough, I was able to intern with a nonprofit in Ecuador, and that led to just wonderful community building, also wonderful environmental knowledge that the group that I was partnering with gave access to its community. And that actually is like a project I want to highlight within that. For them, I'm going to translate it. It was this community based, I'm going to say party because there's like no good translation, but it was a community-based party. And essentially what this party was that all the people in the nonprofit would be welcomed into a community member's home, and we would help build them infrastructure that they needed. This could be a garden, providing all the tools, all the seeds, all the soil, trees. It could be infrastructure. It could be a bathroom, right? It could be a roof. And we really didn't know what the needs of this community member were until we were welcomed into their home. And the reason that I mention this is like climate justice and environmental justice is not only a focus on what is lacking, but how do we build up from what they have? How do we build up their infrastructure? How do we give them more so they can live a sustainable life? And that's kind of my approach with that nonprofit. One of the best advices or advice that I got throughout my undergraduate career was ask questions. And that to this day is still something I hold very dear to me. And it sounds simple, and it probably is, but I'm an overthinker. And I tend to be like, am I overstepping? Am I not doing this right? And so just ask questions. Use your ability as someone entering the field, someone that is just getting started, and ask all the questions you can think. Because no one's gonna be, I've learned, no one's gonna be rude to you. Everyone loves understanding deeper why this is happening, what we must do. Yeah, closed mouth don't get fed. Exactly. And so everyone, I think, in this climate justice field just really wants to work towards justice. And building those connections, having those conversations really does kind of put your toe in the water. It really does get you started in those fields. Um, what gives me hope about the future of climate justice, and this will be the last topic I touch on, is the amount of people and hearts and souls that are working towards um, nation building and creating a better world and creating systems that are sustainable and systems that support the dignity of humanity. And again, I'm speaking from a very humanitarian level framework because that's the field that I want to get into. And so knowing that there's people that are researching, doing the work, both on a local and international level, it all builds on each other. And we all really need all the work that we can get to really help all the people we can. And that is my ending statement.
Thank you so much. That was so great. Well, Analia is here. LOL. She's our founder and director of Youth Empower. If you want to just share a little bit about yourself, we don't have too much time left, and maybe just like some advice you'd want to share on how it's been working with young people or how to get people more comfortable with working with young people. I'll let you take that how you will.
Yeah, thanks, Michaela. I'm so sorry I missed everyone else's presentations. Mandy's giving me grief. But yeah, I think so. I was hired in 2019 to create a summer camp on energy efficiency, and that was never going to actually fully encompass what young people need and what community needs, especially in North Minneapolis, which is where Youth Empower was birthed. And for the last going on 8 years, this process has been really eye-opening for me, but also, like as an adult. And, I met Michaela and Jaden when I was 23 or 4, what I can't do math. Um, and we actually grew up alongside each other. Now granted, they were like 10 years behind developmentally, not to let me stop. Anyways, I just got off another webinar, so my speaking brain is fried. But I've been learning alongside y'all, like even as an adult that is leading young people. I think that one of the biggest opportunities when it comes to working with young people, like what that actually looks like in practice, is it's an invitation or answering an invitation by way of adults to be in right relation with our community. Like I think we treat young people as such like a foreign matter, and like people are so afraid of kids, and I'm like, you used to be a kid. You used to be a young person before you became not a young person. And so myself as an older youth, this has been a real learning process for me. But I think like, especially as it pertains to the climate justice movement, national, locally, and globally, so a lot of my focus now has been more in international climate spaces. Um, Most, if not all, movement spaces and organizations are not actually places where young people can work. And I say that knowing that that's not, like probably the thing everyone wants to hear. And everyone's like, well, we can definitely hire a young person and therefore we change that. That's not how that happens. You actually have to step into right relation. You actually have to change policies. You actually have to show commitment to close the gaps that you yourself may have experienced, especially as you're breaking into your career, especially as you're getting into your passions. Um, we've had young people working at our organization, and I'm going to take MNIPL as one example, not it to be critical, but like we all need to be taking a critical lens to the spaces that we're in, if we're to stay with the times. And I just think that, yeah, we've had young people working here since for years, and even our organization has so much growing and shifting and, harm reduction and opportunities and pathways to create. Um, and I say this as the youth director. I recognize that that is my job title, which is a blessing. And like a few in June, I was at the U.S. Climate Action Network annual meeting, and that's the largest network of environmental and environmental justice based organizations in the country. Um, and at a macro scale, there is a huge gap by way of youth. There's the concept of having interns. There's the concept of, people's kids being involved in climate conversations, but there's still the reality where at almost every level, outside of even just organizing, people are not really prepared to actually be in right relation with young people.
And I think I still see, the patterns of telling youth that they don't know what they're talking about. They haven't experienced anything. You can't be in the space, like, and how can we expect young people to take our place one day when, we're not being brought into spaces in a meaningful and loving and caring way so that we can actually learn and want to take power in that space. Like that was the basis of Youth and Power. I came up with this name because I'm like, I love to explore what it looks like for young people to be in power and to be in conversations around power and, where it looks like where it looks, how it moves, where it's concentrated. Um, and so, for me, I think the coolest thing has been, and I'm totally yapping, Michaela, so feel free to be like, wrap it up. But we have really leaned into an apprenticeship model. And that has been something that when other folks or other states ask me, like how we engage young people, I'm like, well, I've actually made a commitment and we have entered into a commitment to be in relation around apprenticeship. How do we find our way back to meaningfully, you know, not just training youth, but seeing them as community members and as beloved community and really necessary people with lived experience that qualifies them to speak about what they've experienced. What does it actually look like for us to step into right relation with all of our relatives? I think we often hear about respecting elders. There's rarely a time where we're like, I hear, that young people have to be respected and that young people have to be paid for their time. And, like ways that we address those realities is we don't just treat young people like interns or as replaceable, or as free labor. Like those realities cannot keep being how we operate. And so the last thing I'll say on my rant is that, the future is Black and Indigenous led, full stop. But it's also led by young people. And this year, I've had the privilege of, being in a lot of spaces where we're discussing what sort of world we're actually building and how we actually do that in practice. Um, and as one example, I was in the first conference on transitioning away from fossil fuels in Colombia in May or in April, and I was supporting coordination of North America and Afro-descendant sector. Guess what? One sector had all of their stuff together. It wasn't all of us elders. I'm not an elder, but it wasn't all of us organizers. It was the youth sector. They had their stuff together. They had everything written out. They had their processes down. They were like, we already have done this work. Here is the work. And I watched other very well seasoned organizers see that and then not figure out a way for young people to be centered in leadership. And so, yeah, the last thing I'll say is just really like it is our responsibility as adults to make on-ramps and to build a pathway for beloved community for young people. So having the privilege and honor of getting to work with some of these brilliant young folks has taught me that. And it's a learning process for all of us. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. You just jumped in and spilled it out. Thank you. I hope everybody learned something or feels more inspired. Does anybody have any questions? It's okay if you don't.
I have a question for y'all, not for the young folks, but for Aaron, George, Alexandra, Gayatri, Jacqueline, and iPhone 267. Oh, hey, Aaron. What are ways that your communities engage young people meaningfully?
My name is George Crocker. I'm the executive director of the North American Water Office. You can go online and look more about that if you're interested. But I'm here because I need inspiration, and I've gotten a good chunk of it tonight. And so thank you for that. Um, and what I'd like to share is that we're on the brink of the ability to really make the fundamental changes that climate justice needs. Renewable energy is now dispatchable. It never has been before, but it is now. I've worked a little bit with Sarah Wolf over at MNIPL, um, and and she has some literature, and I could send some off about where we're at. But but the fact that we now have renewable energy, the wind and the solar, can be connected to battery storage systems that are relatively benign with iron oxide, just rust, and sodium ion battery, just salt. At the utility scale means that renewable energy can follow load duration curves. And that means we don't need monopoly capital anymore. We need community capital for electric utility services. And I would submit that once we figure that part out, we'll have the energy to do whatever else we want. So thank you so much for your sharing tonight. And I'm hoping that as more people learn more about what the opportunity with renewable energy is, that we can start to build the movement to replace this monopoly capital and all of the waste and destruction that comes with it, with community-based power. So thanks again.
I'll speak. I didn't realize that I was iPhone 267. I'm laughing. I thought my name was up there. I'm like, Jaden reached down and was like, Mom, are you there? I'm like, yeah, I've been on the whole time. What are you talking about? Yes, I'm here. So I just want to say thank you. I work for Hennepin Healthcare, and I'm on the health equity. Well, once was called the health equity department, but we have youth and stethoscopes where we work with youth. Well, I shouldn't say we work with youth. I don't necessarily. I work with team members specifically in my position, but it gives youth those opportunities to grow and learn. And I've been so thankful to you and Alia and just watching Jaden and her friends grow with you. You've been such a great mentor and leader. And I mean, Jaden has grown so much. I mean, you open that door for her into this environmental space. She's, something that was never even a mindset, my thought. We were all teachers or, in different spaces. And when she started working with you, it was just like, that was her path from that on. And so the influence that you've had, it was so positive, and I'm so thankful. And so, yeah, I'm just sending huge hearts. I'm so thankful. I could cry thinking about it, but
I'm gonna
I'm very
cry.
impressed. I'm so impressed with the work that you all do with our youth. And again, I'm laughing that I'm iPhone 267. I'm so glad you said that. Gosh, I'm dying laughing. But yes, very impressed. Everybody's speech or your stories are awesome. I was the 267. I was giving the hearts because I was challenged with the technology. I didn't know how to put the hearts where they'd float up, and so I'm tripping. But I just want to say this is a great program. What you're doing with the youth, and I'm glad you've allowed these young voices to be heard and loud. And thank you, Aaron, as well. So a lot of that. So okay, I'm gonna hush now.
Does anybody else want to go, or I can wrap us up?
This is Erin. I was just gonna say I love Anolia used the word brilliant to describe the group, and that is just so perfect to describe them and how they show up in the world. And they're like brilliant, lighting the way, and brilliant, so sharp and so smart. And so I just feel like I feel very led um by the young people here that I know. And I could cry too. I feel so grateful. Y'all are really incredible.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, this has been a great conversation. I'm so happy the few of you that joined decided to give up an hour of your evening for us. Um, there will be some sort of follow up email. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a wonderful evening.